Hello, everyone. Here with International Master John Bartholomew.
Hey, guys.
Fresh off his win against IM Praggnanandha of India. John, that puts you up +2 in the tournament, so it's an important game for you. So why don't you walk us through the game and tell us some of your thoughts?
Hey, I was sitting on +1 going into this game. And I had a couple of quick draws the last two rounds. With my last game with White against Cerebus Lopez last night, I didn't really like my position out of the opening. He played a novelty and offered a draw, and I didn't find anything and ended up taking it. And against Kevin Wang this morning, I was under pressure. So I really wanted to try to do something with White, even though I was playing the young talent and the top player in the field. So he surprised me a bit in the opening. He has a pretty wide repertoire. Maybe I should have anticipated he would play this line, because I think I do remember seeing a couple games where he did this. Sorry, this is freaking out a little bit, but okay, so he plays this knight c6 move. Okay. All right, we got the mouse now, good. So he played this knight c6 move, and after knight c3, bishop b4, I could play queen c2 here. I've had that position a few times. It's a Zurich variation of the Nimzo Indian. But I felt like doing something a little bit different, so I played bishop d2, and then a3, so grabbing the bishop pair. And I'm trying to play in the style of like a Bogo Indian and play g3, bishop g2, and maybe do without queen c2. So if I don't have to commit my queen to that square, I think it should be better on d1. So I thought all this was normal. He prepares the e5 break. I respond with d5. Knight d2 just to rule out knight e4. So I think this was the first real interesting moment. A5, it looks like a normal move, and it is common in these structures to play this, but in my mind, this move justified my a3 move earlier, because I can just react with b4, which I played right away. And he had a very long think at this point, about 20 minutes or so. So I thought maybe he should just play knight bd7 or perhaps even c6, try to break open the center. Because after a5, b4, it seemed to me that the trade of the pawns and the trade of the rooks down the a file would be in my favor. His queen side looks a bit open. These positions somewhat remind me of King's Indian positions, but without black having the customary counterplay on the king side. So I was feeling confident at this point. He played knight bd7, which was, I think, a good decision. And I thought about taking on a5, but I didn't like how inflexible my pawns become after that. Knight d5, reinforce with knight d7 if he wants, and these are kind of lame.
Yeah, the c5 square alone is probably enough compensation, or at least mostly enough for the pawn.
Yep. And I've been working on trying to play practically in recent months, so I just decided, this might win a pawn, maybe the computer will like it, but castling looks more normal. So he swapped on b4 at this point, because it is difficult to find a move for black if he's not going to take that pawn. And then if he's not going to take, you'd be kind of questioning why he played a5 in the first place. So does take now. We trade the rooks. Queen takes. I had a bit of a think here, because I missed that after queen takes, he can try knight b6. I thought this was a challenging move. Pretty odd location for this knight, but it has some nice points. The main one being to get the rook to a8 as quickly as possible. So develop the bishop either to d7 or maybe g4 next move and hit this pawn with tempo and play rook a8, knight a4. I could see him getting play here. If this occurred, I was thinking about c5. I'd like to play c5 right away. I do that.
Right.
I'm like dreaming of this. I get all this along diagonal, but yeah, he can just take on d5. So to me, knight b6 looks more challenging, and e4, like I said, c5, but I suspect black probably has enough play here. Fundamentally, black has a sound pawn structure. I do have more space plus the bishop pair, but black's activity could be significant. For instance, maybe bishop g4 first, just to kind of square. I do have to watch out for bishop to be on f1 and also c. And again, rook a8 is coming in. If c5, just bring knight back to d7 in the integrity of this pawn structure.
Should he play rook a8 first, or?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's a good point. Rook a8.
Yeah.
I guess I could take on d6, but if at all here.
Yeah, maybe he can transfer the bishop to the light square diagonal, like bishop e2 and bishop b5, and then I don't know. It just seems like okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like this, I was able to execute this maneuver of the bishop, and he had a pawn on b6. But here, if I have to play something like bishop a1, I'm already doubting if I have an advantage here.
Yeah.
So I think knight b6 was the most challenging move, and the game would be interesting after that. I was also thinking about if knight b6, like coming into a7, the bishop developing. In fact, it may not stop him from developing, because I was seeing some weird lines where, say like bishop. What's I thinking here? Let's say I play the most rook a8 takes and c8. So bishop. And I was trying to maintain my pawn advantage in a position like this, but it looked incredibly dangerous. Probably just rook b8. B7 is now a threat, since b7 is no longer a flight square for my queen. Oh, actually, no, I can take on c7 there.
Yeah.
Just optically,
I get the point. Yeah, right.
Crazy dangerous. I probably would not have gone for this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his best move here would be, but even if something like this, maybe.
Bishop e7.
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum there, it's a draw by perpetual, right?
Or maybe this move, b7 and protect c7. So now bishop b7 really is a threat.
Yep.
So long story short, I think he should have played knight b6. Instead, though, he played b5, which is thematic in these structures to attack c4 and try to weaken d5. But I was very happy to see that move. I just played e4, because if I take and be greedy, he gets pressure again. 5, and his bishop is coming to d7. Again, the rook might make an appearance on a8. Work hard to this pawn, first of all. I actually don't even think I can, with rook a8 on the way, and it's debatable if c7 is that big of a weakness in this line. So I've got some loose issues of my own. So I just played e4, solidifying d5, and now he takes, and I can jump my knight in, and I was pleased here. I thought I was much better at this point. Knight b6, take, and now bishop back to d2. I think this is a key maneuver, preparing bishop e3. So he's got these two pawns that are his main weaknesses, and now I'm starting to maneuver against them.
Like, you always hear about like improving your worst place piece, and you hear about these things, but then sometimes it's not so easy. Like, it takes some imagination. I mean, bishop d2, I would say, is a little easier, but knight b6 with all the rook a8 ideas, I think that does it plans on improving the worst place pieces, but it's not as easy to see. And I think that it's a common idea, like people know, hey, improve your worst place piece, but sometimes it's not as obvious as, let's say, developing it from the back rank. Those are like you just hear repositioning your bishop to a different diagonal. And a lot of people would be reluctant, like let's say class players would be reluctant to play moves like that, right? Like they think maybe there's a future. I'll go f4, open up the diagonal. But so this was like instructive moments, as was knight b6.
Yeah, and I say on my videos sometimes, just because you're reading it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a failure.
Right.
Because I think that's a good point. A lot of class players do take retreating moves as a sign of weakness, and they think, oh, my position is somehow regressing. But in fact, it can just be a repositioning, because my advantage here is of a static nature. I didn't think it was going to run away with me having the bishop pair and black having, as far as I could tell, perpetually weak pawns on b6 and d6.
Right.
And even if this pawn pushes to b5, it's still a weakness. I can attack it much easier than black can attack my b4 pawn and my e4 pawn.
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to ask him anything about the game afterwards, but maybe he was anticipating something more direct. I definitely thought about that, but it seemed unnecessary when I could just angle for attacks against his weaknesses with the pawns.
Yep.
I was looking at lines like takes. I'm not sure I even want to give up my dark square bishop. And when I play f4, inherently my king is going to get weaker too. So bishop d2, and he plays queen b7. One of his issues here is if he develops the light square bishop, like let's say he plays bishop d7 or bishop g4, and that's a direct attack on the pawn. Again, bishop e3 is on the way if necessary. If he gets a situation like this, it's just completely one-way traffic.
Right.
This rook can't enter the game. At some point, I might even play bishop f1 once I protect e4. So it's bad news. So he plays queen b7, which does guard the a6 square. I had to think here. There's a lot of tempting options. I mean, I was looking at b5, trying to attack d6 with moves like bishop b4, queen a3, but I didn't want this knight to transfer to b5 square.
Right.
And endgame like this, I wasn't sure how strong this b pawn was. Like I considered this option in certain lines, but he does gain a protected pass pawn. So I'd have to be sure that my b pawn would be strong enough to warrant this. So I like the plan that I came up with. Queen a3. Now he develops a bishop, and I'm in time to play rook a1. So stopping rook a8 and preparing an infiltration, most likely on a6. So he plays rook c8, queen a6. And now he traded queens, but maybe it was more tenacious to play queen b8. I think black faces a serious uphill task here, but after the queen trade, black didn't have much counterplay. So queen b8, and I'm not sure what I would play here. I was thinking maybe b5 makes more sense now.
Isn't so available.
Right, it's not possible. And if ever he goes rook c5, I don't want to play bishop f1 because I lose. But queen a8 is time. The back rank issue really comes to tell. It's like black needed one more tempo. He needs his pawn on h6 or something. But still, maybe queen b8 would have been a better chance. So instead he swapped, take, and at b5 I can snap on d6. So he tried for active counterplay, rook c2, bishop e3, and rook b2. So back when I played queen a6, I saw this coming line, and it looks scary for white, but in fact, black has nothing. And the line is rook b2, take. And now he played king f8, but...
Right. What happened to this variation?
Right, because this pattern that we've seen before if we studied chess, but again, this back rank, you just need one more tempo to set this up. And I was looking at lines like here, if he does play a move such as h6 or king f8,
right?
What's important is, let's say he plays king f8. Yeah. He's still threatening bishop h3, but after king is not defending the e4 pawn, because so this is something I had to foresee when I played queen a6, because I think without this bishop d3 move, this might work for him.
Right.
So I thought he would go for this, though, because my king on g2 does look a little...
And f3 or bishop d3?
Right, yeah, I'd have to figure out exactly how to unwind my pieces and protect e4, because f3 does start e4 and rules out g4 stuff, but weakening the second rank is kind of annoying.
True.
This is similar to the game.
Looks like you're sort of cruising, actually, in this position. It's hard to find improvement for his minor pieces.
Yeah.
His rook's nice, but otherwise, I don't really see what he's... Maybe he could try, like, g5, g4 or something to try to weaken your structure, but...
I actually think his best chance in this sort of endgame would be to get the knight active. So knight e8, and trying to go king to c7 when d6 is guarded.
Yeah.
That's about the only counterplay I could see, and the idea is try to force the rook off the b file so we can win the b4 pawn.
Yeah.
So we're getting kind of deep in that, but I thought he would go for this rook b1 check anyways, but after rook takes b6, he actually just played king f8 directly. And now he is threatening the check followed by bishop h3, so
yeah, h3.
h3. gives the check, pushes my king to h2. d6 is now under attack, so king e7. And now I played bishop g5 because I really didn't want to allow that knight e8 business I was mentioning.
Right.
Just didn't seem necessary to allow that because now after h6 take, he has to take with a pawn.
To not hang d6.
Right. So here we were in mutual time pressure, probably about, I don't know, 6-7 minutes each.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision how to activate my position because I want to get my light square bishop active. It's pretty hard to do anything with these guys. I can't make any improvements because b5 is not possible. And if ever I play like rook here, he can start bringing his king over. So I want to keep my rook on b6 as long as I can to hold up his king from getting over to the queen side. Yeah,
I wonder if you could. Oh, I'm not even looking at the game. It looks like you played g4 here.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess I was sort of considering. I mean, okay. So you're trying to stop. You're stopping f5.
Yeah, stopping f5. It's counterintuitive because I am putting more pawns on light squares.
Right.
But I was foreseeing some plans, like in a lot of endgames, I can try to come in with my king and win this pawn and then bank on my h pawn.
Yeah.
So that was actually relevant to the game. The other move I was strongly considering, though, was h4. Seems like an obvious move.
Right.
Because now I can look to do this and bishop h3 at some moment.
Or if he goes f5, then bishop h3 first, and if takes, you have rook b7.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thing I didn't like is he can play rook b2.
That looks annoying.
Yeah, and if ever I come just any progress.
Right.
So I'd probably have to play f3. Quite right to me because now I'm not threatening bishop
b3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And granted, like he doesn't have a lot of waiting moves himself, but it just looked unpleasant for me to activate the position. If the king goes back, he checks again, and I think it's much better to have the pawn on f2 in these situations. So I opted for g4 instead. He goes bishop c8, and I think this is a mistake. It's really tough to resist here, but I think he has to try something involving bishop and try to get the bishop this way.
Okay.
Maybe he was hesitant to might sneak in b5 if his bishop never watching the square.
Right.
But, let's say here, bishop here, maybe, let's say f3. He could bug me, threat e4.
Mm-hmm.
If I try to, and I might have some problems on the second rank.
Yeah.
Seems like I should have some way even here to bother him, but
even I wonder in here if you could play b5 and then if he goes bishop d3, play rook b7 check and then b6.
Yeah, that's probably good.
I don't know. Just
make a decision.
Yeah, because he can't. I don't think he can trade the b pawn for like the f pawn because then you scoop up the king side.
Yeah, this might. Envisioning some scenarios where even this, even it's hard to make progress.
Easy, yeah,
the b pawn, and that bishop on a6 is really nice, just keeping this
holding it
out
together.
Of play.
Yeah,
I mean, I could always like bail out and do this, but I gotta think more drunk.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the best way to play, though, and it might still be a technical loss. But he plays bishop c8, and now after bishop f3, the interesting thing is he can't ever get his king over. I don't know if he played bishop c8 intending to play like king d7 at some point, but there's a nice idea, which I think you kind of touched on earlier. Here I can play
right,
and if he takes, either way, d7 runs into rook c6. Here, and now he's play b5 on b7.
Yep.
So I was looking for this shot at various times if his king ever crosses the equator there, but he never did it.
And of course, the same would apply after king d7, g5, king c7. You have rook c6.
Yes. Yep.
Same thing. Yep.
So I think that just means that the bishop is pretty poorly placed on c8. I mean, I think the best he can do is move it back to d7 and maybe activate it via a4. So Again, we're in mutual time pressure here. I'm just trying to improve my position, get my bishop active. I think he did defend pretty well. Because it looks like I should just bring my bishop into c6 and then play like rook b8 and run the b pawn, but I have to be careful how I execute that. So here I played rook c6, attacking his bishop. Went here, just repeated. And now I did play bishop b5. He attacks my pawn. Just trying to think what I was threatening here. Because even though I played bishop b5, like again, it's not completely clear what my next move will be. Yeah, because like let's say he just passes. Like I play bishop c6, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on the d6 pawn anymore. And the king comes to c7 and my rook is boxed in. Maybe I have to do some try to win this endgame.
Yeah.
Which actually should be a win because
f7 pawn is a goner.
Yeah, and the side earlier.
Yep.
So yeah, actually, that might be the way to go if he just does nothing. But he attacked the b pawn, and now I played bishop c6, protecting the b pawn. He goes king d8, and now back to a4, gaining a useful tempo by hitting the pawn.
Yeah.
And if he goes here, I and so his move is force. He has to play here. Rook b8, king here. Now bishop c6, and I was happy to have found this because I was really low on time at this point. I had like 1 minute left with the 30-second increment. So bishop c6, allowing king c7 because otherwise my pawn just runs all the way to b7. So here, and he wins b4, but the point is I can play rook a7 check whenever I want. And I'm like offloading my pawn, but getting at all his pawns on the king side.
Every ending is just fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at first I was going to do it here. But after he takes, I would lose e4. It should be completely, but there's a bit of work to do. And then I realized he's essentially stuck after rook takes b4. So I just played a solidifying move f3, and black has almost nothing to do because the king is glued to the defense of the bishop, so he can't play king b6 and activate it. Any bishop move loses. Bishop d7, there's rook a7, bishop here, pawn because again, that king coming up the side. Go in h6, and he's not in time with any counterplay.
Not at all. Yeah, I think that's such an instructive moment, even though this is a simple version of it, like where you played f3. So I feel like as like chess learners, we're always like looking for the forced variations that win, because that's what we're taught to do, like do our tactics, do this, right? So in this position, the reason I even bring it up is, like you said, you were in time pressure, each of you. I mean, I came upstairs, I think you had maybe 8 minutes or so, you had about a minute and a half, and of course the 30-second increment, but you know, a lot of times your instincts may tell you to try to find the forced line, but really like you noted, after f3, I mean, there's really not much black can do.
Exactly.
The forced variation wasn't necessarily needed. Just you're in total control of the position.
Exactly. It's like once you kind of take a step back, look at the position objectively, detach yourself from the emotions of the situation, which is really tough when you're in time pressure. We've all been there. Then you realize, hey, I've got a position I can just sit on and improve. I mean, I could even play like king g3 next if I wanted and keep the pressure on. One other important thing is if he plays king here, doesn't really threaten anything, but yeah, maybe he would try it. I can go rook and f7 is going to fall, and then all the pawns.
Yeah,
bishop's just beautiful on c6, dominating his bishop. So yeah, nothing for black to do. He checked here, rook b3, and now I didn't see any other improving moves, so I went check, king here, take, and the rest is basically a cleanup job.
Yeah.
Run the g pawn. I'm up 2 pawns now. Get my bishop involved. It's did its job on c6. I was just trying to avoid any semblance of like a mating net. King d4, rook g2, and then I don't know, something. So king here. F4, just giving my king a bit more breathing room. Yeah, and after rook h7, he called it quits. Check is threatened, and also my main idea is just g7, bishop here, and queen.
Yeah.
So very happy with this game. I think it was my best game of the tournament. Pretty smooth strategic win. Would have been interesting if he tried knight b6, playing a little bit more actively. I think b5, even though it's thematic, was probably a mistake.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it was an important game for you. I mean, it was also an important game for him, let's say, because, I mean, he needed, at this point, 4.5 out of 5, which statistically, of course, not the easiest score to get in a tournament like this. But, of course, it was an important game for him as well, to keep his Norm chances alive, and for you, for the same reason.
Yeah.
Although you're in a little bit of better position than he was going into the game. So now you're on +2, and +4 is the score needed for the GM Norm, and 4 games left.
Right.
So
yeah.
So it's again, it's hard to foresee what's going to happen in 4 games. The competition is just really tough in these events.
Yes.
But at least for now, you can say that you're in a good position.
Yeah. And actually trying to maximize the whites in these tournaments is important, and 2.5 out of 3 with white so far, so that's promising. And yeah, like you said, every game is tough. You can't really expect to go in a tournament like this and beat up on anyone, really. I mean, I played Kevin Wang, who's 2380, I think, or 2390.
Right.
And he's on the lower end of the rating spectrum here, but I mean, he had me on the ropes. I was in the most trouble in that game. So yeah, I'll do my best with my remaining games here. And just cool to play a guy like Praggnanandha. I mean, he's a fantastic player, and 12 years old, just to see the focus he has is pretty incredible. I have a feeling like this time next year he could be 2,600 for all we know. So
yeah. Well, as we know, your fans are watching.
Yeah. And thank you guys so much for supporting me, as always.
And good luck in the next 4 games. Hopefully we can have a celebratory interview at the end.
Hopefully. Don't jinx me, Peter.
No, I won't. All right. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.